With the D-Day commemorations happening this weekend, I really felt that I wanted to speak on that subject. However, if I sat down and started to think about it, I found it very difficult to know what to say. I was very privileged to have known Dennis over. Dennis became a good support and a good friend of mine. And I had the privilege of sitting with him many times and talking to him about his life and his war experience. Dennis is sadly not with us anymore, but if you'll allow me, I want to show a video that I recorded a few years ago where Dennis shares so eloquently some of his reflections and some of his memories about that time.
So I joined the HAC and went through my initial training at Enfield Playing Fields, North London. And then I was posted to the Royal Berkshire Regiment, the 5th Battalion, the Royal Berkshire Regiment, who, when I joined them, they were they were up in Scotland training when I joined them, and I managed to catch German measles. So I was in hospital in Aldershot with German measles, feeling perfectly all right, really. I mean, I didn't feel ill or anything. And I can remember sitting up in bed during that, I suppose I had a week there, and all of a sudden, my father and mother popped their heads up outside through the window, looked at me through the window, because my father was calling on his baker customer then on that particular day. That was his day to go there. And then 44, of course, I was switched from the Royal Berkshire Regiment to the 5th Battalion, the Wiltshire Regiment. I can remember spending the night on the 5th on board ship in Southampton Water and seeing the mass of craft going backwards and forwards in the Solent, backwards and forwards, a tremendous busy. Not a German plane in sight, which is quite amazing, really, quite amazing. And then on the evening, we set sail across the channel, and I can remember the feeling I had was I felt privileged to be part of this armada and this battle, which was probably the most important in our history. And the ships ploughing through the water in the dark, not a light at all, in the dark, and seeing the shores of England gradually disappear at dusk, disappear. I thought, well, it's going to be a while before I see old England again. Well, on D-Day morning, there was woken up by a voice over the tannoy, ship's tannoy, wakey, wakey, rise and shine, it's 4 o'clock on a fine morning, and you mustn't be late for the party. And I thought to myself, well, some party. Huh. So we got up, got dressed, had a very good breakfast, and just waited for our call. We landed behind the Canadians. The Canadians did on Juno Beach. The Canadians did the assault, the first assault, and then we had to follow up and be part of the beach defence until such time as it was no longer required. On D-Day morning, we waited for our call, and then our call came for our code number to board ship. So we got on the landing craft, flat landing craft, hanging from the davits of the boat, and I got on board last of all, so I was at the back. And I remember it was overcast sky. We could hear the planes going over, our planes, and we thought, oh, they're good, doing their job amongst the Germans. eventually hit an obstacle. The boat started filling with water and we had to get out, and I jumped into water up to my waist, I suppose. And the sea wall was concave there, and it was absolutely lined with the Canadians who'd done the assault. There was about 20 of them lying on the beach who'd been killed in the initial assault. And then the rest of them were waiting for the beach exit to be cleared. And that didn't take very long. It was cleared after we landed, and they disappeared. And we got on with the job of helping as we were able to. I can remember during that time, one doodlebug came over. I don't know whether you know the doodlebugs. They were fairly late in the war. They did damage in London and various places. This doodlebug came over. Chug, 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 chug. We watched it. And all of a sudden, it turned round, came back, went back again. Something was wrong with it, I suppose. Went back again and dived down amongst the Germans. Everybody cheered like anything. And, yes, we had a couple of months on the beach. We were walking along the side of a bungalow, and there's the bungalow wall, the path, and a privet hedge, shoulder-high privet hedge on my right. And all of a sudden there's a sew, bang. On the sewer I dropped to the ground. But the bang came when I was halfway down. And I know that because my map case, when I got up, my map case had a hole through it. And that had been lying flat against my back. And so as I fell forward, it must have swung around and been dangling in front of me. A bit of shrapnel went through it. I had an anorak on which was a bit loose, and in my right-hand pocket a pair of socks rolled up with a ball. And they had a bit of shrapnel left in when I got up. So there's a bit of shrapnel, another bit of shrapnel went pretty close to me through these socks. And finally, I had a rifle. Well, as a lieutenant, I was a lieutenant then. I had a platoon. Didn't normally carry rifles, but I wanted to carry. I should be able to pick off the enemy before he got too close to me. So I had a rifle. I was carrying it at the trail. That's parallel to the ground. And another bit of shrapnel caught the wood on the rifle about an inch in front of my fingers. But that was it. I didn't get so much as a pinprick. But there was a chap about 10 paces in front of me. He didn't get up. So, yeah, I felt very much so that God protected me then. I can think of another occasion when I walked over a road. I'd been in company headquarters and I was going back to my unit. And as I walked across the road, I saw a German tank coming up the road fairly, I don't know, a few hundred yards away, with 3 men on either side. So I just carried on walking. I dived down the cellar of a house opposite, because most houses had cellars. I thought, well, I don't know where they'll probably chuck a grenade down. I don't know where it'll be. I tried to choose a place where I would be least hurt. In a strange sort of way, I wasn't scared or frightened or anything like that at all. God seemed to dull those senses, and I was just the thought of doing what I could to preserve myself, really. Nothing happened, nothing at all. And I imagine that the tank and those chaps were really probing to see where we were. They saw me crossing over. Thought, they're around here somewhere. I must have turned around and gone back. But anyway, I saw no more Germans. I waited till dark, and I came up and looked, expecting to see a place alive with Germans. Of course, none at all. Then there was the occasion when I had to put in a platoon attack, a German position, and I wanted to do a recce. So I took 2 men with me. Must have been an anti-personnel mine. They had what they call the shoe mine, SCHU. It had a prong sticking up through the grass. If you stepped on it, you probably lost your foot or something. Then the chap behind me stood on one of these mines. And then the chap behind him and myself lifted him up to carry him to waiting stretcher bearers. We had 2 teams of stretcher bearers, and then he strode on one. And so I had 2 chaps here, wounded with having been on their mines. So I crawled out, feeling with my hands in front of me and round, sweeping round to see if I could feel any of these prongs sticking up. And I thought it was better to have my hand blown off than my face blown off. And went to get the 2 teams of stretcher bearers who should have been waiting. They were not there. And all the platoon was in the background. They'd all gone back to the farmhouse. And it was a large field. And I went back and found them all in the farmhouse there. And I'm afraid I was quite angry that they had done that. And so I took the 2 teams of stretcher bearers with me to go and rescue these 2 chaps. And I think it's only God's mercy that daylight caught up on us and we had to turn around to go back. I think if we had, in fact, got back to these 2 men during the night, the enemy would be putting up his flares, and the chances are the stretcher bearer teams themselves would have been treading on mines. So really, it was a mercy that we weren't able to, really, I suppose. But I wasn't, somehow, in a strange way, I was in a situation where I didn't like it, but I wasn't scared stiff or anything. I was sitting in an armchair, it must have been terrifying. Well, I didn't have that feeling. Well, my faith has been my bedrock of existence all through my life. I don't think I've never, as far as I can remember, had queries about my faith. God has led me, guided me all the time. And I believed I was being protected and led.